When we talk about Africa, our motherland, we gotta stop looking at it like it's just been struggling all on its own. Poverty, corruption, war, that narrative is incomplete. Because the truth is, many African nations were deliberately destabilized by the U.S. government through CIA, U.S. aid, and Western foreign policy, all to maintain control over African resources and keep the continent from rising. And we're gonna break it all down today. Now let's start with the Congo. In 1961, CIA helped assassinate Patrice Lumumba, the country's first democratically elected prime minister. Why? Because Lumumba wanted to nationalize the Congo's resources, their uranium, diamonds, copper, and keep the profits for the people. The U.S. and Belgium said nah and had him killed. Same playbook in Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah, with a Pan-African visionary talking black unity, economic independence, and African liberation, the CIA orchestrated a coup in 1966 to have him removed, right after he published Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism. The U.S. saw him as a threat. These weren't isolated incidences, they were strategies. Let's fast forward to Libya in 2011. The U.S. led a NATO intervention to overthrow Gaddafi. Why? Gaddafi was about to launch a gold-backed African currency to free Africa from Western financial control. He wanted Africa to trade with its own money and its own wealth. What happened after? Gaddafi was killed, Libya destroyed, and now they are open-air slave markets from the wealthiest country in Africa to a failed state, all because he tried to empower Africa. Then there's Angola. During the Cold War, the U.S. backed the rebel group UNITA against the leftist MPLA government. That turned Angola into a war zone for 25 years. Hundreds of thousands died, millions were displaced. Why? Oil, diamonds, and the U.S. didn't want a socialist African state. Meanwhile, American oil companies kept drilling off the coast like nothing was happening. Somalia, the U.S. stepped in under the guise of humanitarian aid in the 90s. But behind the scenes, they were backing warlords, manipulating factions, and turning the country into a proxy war playground. That infamous Black Hawk Down incident? It didn't just happen. It was part of a larger pattern of interference, all while Somalia spiraled into decades of civil war. In Sudan, the U.S. foreign policy played a role in the split that created South Sudan, a move pushed by oil interests and pressure from Western-backed rebel groups. But instead of more peace, what followed was more conflict, more death, and now both nations are in crisis. But corporations still got their oil contracts. And let's not forget Nigeria. It's Africa's largest oil producer, and for decades, the U.S. had its hand in the pot, supporting military regimes when convenient, then turning a blind eye to human rights violations and watching as the Niger Delta was polluted and impoverished. The people suffered, but the oil kept flowing, and that's all that mattered. Now, let's be clear, it wasn't just guns and coups. USAID, which sounded like charity, was used as weapons too. Many African nations received U.S. aid with strings attached. Open up your markets, privatize your resources, cut education and healthcare, let our companies in, or no money for you. And if you refuse, they fund your opposition, back a coup, or simply pull the plug and watch your economy collapse. That's not foreign aid. That's economic blackmail. Family, this is deeper than politics. This is about power, wealth, and legacy. Every time an African nation tried to rise, tried to unify, tried to own what was theirs, the U.S. shut it down. Why? Because a strong Africa means a strong black diaspora. And a strong diaspora, that's a threat to global white supremacy. They want Africa in chaos because chaos keeps us disconnected from our history, our birthright, and our power. But now we know better, so it's time to do better. We got to stay woke, wealthy, outstanding, knowledgeable, and empowered. Now drop a black fist in the comments.